you recently about our current British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and the fact that clearly he hasn't bothered to look into his government himself. When you think about it, they've had 14 years to cherry pick the very best talent that they may have inside that own political party. 14 years is a long time, as one can imagine. But very quickly after getting power, way back in July, things started to take a turn for the worst. I suppose the biggest problem for them really was at the very start. The Chancellor, who'd always vowed that she was never going to do this, decided to remove the winter fuel allowance, which left, of course, lots of people this winter freezing, quite literally, and still unable to pay their bills. Meanwhile, this government have welcomed in all the illegals and migrants that are literally possible, all staying now in hotels, and will be doing, all thanks to this particular woman, Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, for the next 4 years. Apparently she misjudged and she hasn't been able so far to smash the gangs. No surprise, right? What's more interesting is not just the likes of Rachel Reeves, who sadly has been caught out once again, of course lying and fabricating her CV. She didn't seem to think it was much of a problem, and as she pointed out, judge me on what I do, not what I've said. Politics is all about being truthful and transparency, as one can imagine. That was very quickly followed by the business secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, who decided that he was a solicitor. Turns out, though, that Jonathan too had been fabricating his CV, and he was no more of a solicitor than you and I. But that's where it goes. Now, behind the scenes, what I can tell you is that's been going on at number 10 Downing Street. They've all been issued to go through their own CVs with a fine-tooth comb and bring to the fore, particularly in front of the current British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, any foibles that may prove embarrassing. A little bit late for that, as one can imagine. This is because the current Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, a woman who's called out every single person for lies and misogyny and all of that sort of stuff, well, guess what? She's been less than truthful on her CV too. And this is now the problem, because it doesn't matter what this government do, they are known as a lying, cheating government, fabricating the stories. Now, again, as you move this particular story on, no one's available for comment. It's fascinating, but they're all ready to come out when they've got something to say. This particular woman, Lisa Nandy, tried to defend the business secretary, that's right, Jonathan Reynolds, by saying, well, an underling filled it in for him on LinkedIn. How many times can you use that story? And how many of us allow our CVs to be tampered with by virtually somebody you've only just employed? They were told the deal. They were told the facts. Now what's happening is this. These alleged people that they claim filled their CVs in for the digital site LinkedIn inappropriately are now being tracked down by the mainstream media, thankfully. And of course their story is going to be enlightening, because clearly they are not going to care, simply because they're now out of the employ, and more importantly, they've decided they want to get their version of events out there. Well, of course, money helps into the bargain too. So if Angela, Rachel and Jonathan and the rest of them inside the Labour Party thought this was well and truly over, sadly for them, it's not. For the British people, the nightmare continues, literally being led by a bunch of liars and cheats, and seemingly people that can't even keep a track of their own CV, but we're supposed to believe that they can keep a track of the British finances, as in the case of Rachel Reeves. Now, what do you think to that? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.